Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to Snow the Goalies, the Press Row Show for the first time in years. And it has been...
I think it's been 2 years, Russ.
Let's call it 2 years.
Close to it.
We are here. We are at Wells Fargo Center, which you can see behind us. Take a look at that shot. Look at that. Where else are you going to get a live-streamed pregame show, first intermission, second intermission, post-game? It's only here, and it's only with Snow the Goalie. And happy to be back here doing this with you again.
It's so good to have you back, Russell. For the last couple of years, I've been by myself down here, and you've been home, handling things at home. But now you're back in the building, which is a great thing. We will be joined by our partner, Therien. Bundy will be with us at intermissions and postgame. Although today, because of unique circumstances, which is Game 2 of the Phillies in the National League Championship Series, I will not be part of second intermission or postgame. It'll just be Russ and Bundy.
That's correct.
But we will also be joined here in the first pregame, I should say, not intermission, pregame by Kevin Kurz, the new Flyers beat writer of The Athletic. So he's going to come on and introduce you to him and talk a little bit about the team. But Russ, there's a lot of excitement down here in the building. We saw it when we were setting up. We went downstairs to grab some lunch, and the fans, when they came in, they were all hooting and hollering.
They sure were.
They were ready to go. There was a block party. Dan Hilferty walked outside and was like greeting the people as they were coming in outside at the block party, which was a pretty cool thing. We just had Danny Briere stop by, wish us luck on the podcast tonight. So it's great. It's a great environment, and look, the Flyers are not going to have a great season. We're going to have things that we're going to talk about that are sometimes negative about this team. But you definitely have to like the direction that this team is heading in under the new leadership. I think it's night and day from where they were before.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've run into a lot of people who are in different parts of this organization. As you mentioned, Danny Briere was just up here a little bit ago. Saw Keith Jones a little bit earlier. There's an excitement. The excitement here is palpable. And you might be wondering to yourself out there, hey, aren't there other things happening in the sports complex? Anthony just mentioned the Phillies. Game 2 of the NLCS is across the street. One of the things that I don't think a lot of people were aware of until they probably were about to get down here and saw a lot of extra time on their ETA was that Mexico and Germany are playing across the street at the link. They're playing a friendly. Now, I thought about going off and doing another credential thing. I speak Spanish and German. I thought, hey, maybe that could be fun. But I'm committed. Unlike some people, and I'm just kidding. Now, Bundy, to your point, Bundy will be here first intermission, second intermission, and post-game. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, where is that ultimate beaut? He'll be here first intermission. And let's get into some of the more interesting things that we've noticed, and we're going to break this down a little bit with Kevin Kurz when he comes on in about 10 minutes or so. Morgan Frost is not in the lineup. We'll dive into that in a little bit. It looks like the reason, well, we'll get into many of the reasons, but this team wanted to have both Tyson Forrester and Bobby Brink in the lineup. If you wanted the team to play the kids, to that end, they are playing the kids. On the blue line, however, Emil Andre is not in the lineup. Mark Stahl is, as you would expect, Flyers fans, not exactly the most tolerant group all the time, which is fine on social media at least. Not big fans of Mark Stahl's play to this point, wondering how can you play Mark Stahl instead of playing the kids? Wanted to know from your perspective here, are the Flyers towing the line the right way in terms of playing the kids? Are they being too conservative? Are they going for it too much? Where are we?
Well, look, I mean, you don't develop kids at the NHL level. They have to have a certain level that they're at to begin with to be playing at this level. You're willing to accept mistakes. You're willing to accept growing pains, but it's not from you're crawling and then you got to walk. I mean, you have to be able to, at least stumble around a little bit before you actually get up to this level. And I think that's kind of the difference with what they're doing. They really want to see Brink and Forster together out on the ice because they want to see what one line looks like into the next line, into the next, as you roll those guys out there. And rather than, there was some talk maybe that Sean Couturier would miss this game. John Tortorella said he was a little banged up. He missed practice. There was a thought maybe he was a pregame decision or game time decision. He will be in the lineup tonight. So there was a thought that maybe he was going to be the guy that came out. Turns out he didn't. He's staying in. Scott Lawton's moving to center, and Morgan Frost is the guy coming out, which a lot of people might be surprised by.
Yeah.
But he has not looked good the first two games.
Not.
Yeah, and we'll dive into that with Kevin Kurz when he comes on. And I know fans want to see a veteran guy from the fourth line, for example, come out. But right now, that fourth line of Nick Delorier, Ryan Poehling, and Garnet Hathaway has really been a really good line for them, doing what fourth lines are supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean,
in their role.
So much of it comes back to, again, we talk about this ad nauseum. We talk about it on Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast, which you can get wherever you get your podcasts. But we talked about this with Jonesy. We've talked about this with Danny Briere, not on camera for that part. But we've talked to them about the importance of whatever a fourth line is. And as we've said it time and time again, I'm a total advocate of, if this league eventually gets to a point where across the board you start seeing the better teams in the league playing a fourth line of skilled young players, and that becomes what the entire league does, then by all means, you should follow suit. But that's not what this league is. And when you see, what happened in the last game, where you see a Nick Seeler step up for a Tyson Forster, is Nick Seeler a forward? Of course not. He's a defenseman. But is having that veteran presence important? Yes. Because if you play too young and you don't have somebody in the lineup who can defend those younger players, bad things can happen. Now, whether or not you want to agree with that or not is your prerogative. But that is what the hockey circles say. And it's not just the stodgy old hockey heads. It's also the more progressive minds in the sport. So again, if there is a paradigm shift, I'm sure that Danny Briere, of all people, who kind of is leading this hybrid front office that's a mix of analytics and the eye test, would be at the forefront of making that change. Until then, yeah, you're going to see a coach like John Tortorella want to play a fourth line that he thinks is reliable. We have a lot of people checking in. We're available, by the way, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. If you're checking in for the first time, thank you. If you are checking in for the millionth time, thank you as well. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, you can comment below. We can pull them up on the screen. Our intern, we have an intern now.
Yes, we do.
Intern Andrew.
Andrew Henry.
Intern Andrew's over there. He's pulling up the comments on the screen. The big thing is YouTube and Facebook, you can comment. We can pull them up. If you're on Twitter and you're tweeting at us, thank you. We can't pull them up on the screen. So head over to YouTube. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Click that like button. And, of course, subscribe to the show. Ring that bell so you get notifications when we go live. Again, myself, Ant, and Bundy, who will be with us first, second, intermission, as well as postgame. And let's get into one of the other things that I think people have had an eye on. It's, would Carter Hart start the home opener? What do you say?
Well, Andrew popped up. The first comment he popped up was somebody says, "It feels so weird to see you guys standing up."
Oh.
There's a reason that we're standing up. It's because we got the wrong table here. So
that's fine.
It's okay. It was just okay. In future, we'll have high top chairs on a higher table.
I like
so we won't have to hold the mics. And you can still stand. You can still stand.
Standing is good for the body.
It's good. It's great for the body. My feet kill me, but that's okay. It's all right.
We did see, by the way, we saw people downstairs who pulled us to the side, said that they listened to the show, they love the show. We appreciate that. If at some point you end up at Wells Fargo Center, I don't know what the rules are about the sports book here, but if you're able to get up here and you want to come say hi in between periods or while we're doing this, by all means, come on up. Bundy's willing to take pictures during first intermission, second intermission, postgame. All right. People were wondering if Carter Hart was going to be in net in the home opener. Started the first two games. You have Sam Ersson, who this team very clearly believes in to some capacity. Would Sam Ersson get the start? He does not. Carter Hart is in net tonight. Are you surprised in any way, shape, or form that he's starting tonight?
I'm not for the home opener. I mean, in the home opener, you know, it means a lot to guys to actually play that home opener. It means a lot to veteran players. I mean, and this is kind of along the lines where you heard Tortorella say, you know, you got to do right by the veteran players. And one of the things is you play the home opener.
Sure.
Now, if a guy has not been going well and after tonight, they still don't think he's doing well and they want to pull him out of the lineup, I think that's when you do it. But I think that home opener, you give them the benefit of the fact that, hey, you've put a lot of years and a lot of time into this league. You've been one of the best players at the sport for, you know, in the world for however long.
Yeah.
You deserve an opportunity
Sure.
to start the home opener. So I think that it means more, you know, to have your guys play the first game.
Which I think is why. Is it sending a message? Is it sending a message to Morgan Frost that he's not playing the home opener.
Yes.
He struggled the first 2 games.
Yes, it is.
You can be the biggest Morgan Frost supporter in the world. It's very hard to come away from those first 2 games and say that, one, he was deserving of more time in that role. This one hurts. There's no doubt. You only get one home opener, right? And even though he's not being thrust into a top-line role on this team, it still hurts not to be here.
Yeah.
You know what rhymes with hurts is Kurtz.
Kevin Kurtz.
So we're gonna bring him on.
Come
here.
on over.
And
he's 5 minutes early. It's all good.
He's 5 minutes early. We like that. We like early here on the Press Row Show.
You may want to hold the mic since we have a smaller table.
And now we're going to
totally up to you.
In the beauty of technology. No,
wrong way, Russ.
All right, look, there we go. We have all 3 of us.
TV too.
Bingo, bango.
No, it's live on YouTube. Live on YouTube,
Facebook, and Twitter.
Kev, it's great to have you. Kevin Kurtz of The Athletic, the new Flyers beat writer for The Athletic. Kevin and I go way back. Kev, before we really dive into the Flyers, let's people I don't think realize just how tied in you are with this organization and everything. Why you would be such a great follow on social media and reading your stuff on The Athletic. Why don't you give them a little bit of background and where you came from and how this all came to be?
Well, I started as an intern.
I think you just knocked him off.
There we go. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I started, and then my first job, full-time job, was as in public relations for the Phantoms, and then that led to a job in PR here. And then it's funny, I look at NHL digital media departments now, and there's 7, 8 people, some of them. Back when I was doing it, it was a one-man show. You're writing everything, you were doing all the video. It was a lot, right? But from there, I left the Flyers in 2010. I went to Comcast Corporate. I missed being in hockey. I worked for NBC, sending me out to San Jose, where I covered the Sharks for 10 years. Some of that with The Athletic, then ended up with the Islanders. I'm all over the place here, but I'm back here.
But you're back home. You're back home where you belong, and that's a great thing. So I guess, Kevin, the big news today, and this is why I told Russ we wanted to wait till you got here to talk about it. Morgan Frost is your healthy scratch tonight. I know the Flyers, wanted to get both Brink and Forster into a game together. Does it surprise you that Morgan is the guy that comes out of the lineup?
When you hear all this chatter about Torts is going to rotate the young guys in and out of the lineup, I wasn't sure if Morgan Frost still was going to be considered one of those guys just because he had such a strong second half last season. So, the fact that obviously this is some message sending, not just to Frost, but to the whole team, that it doesn't matter who you are. If you're not playing well, you're going to come out of the lineup. And, we saw it yesterday, too, with the New Jersey Devils benching Timo Meier, Tyler Toffoli, right? So the old school coaches have not quite gone away yet with Lindy Ruff and obviously John Tortorelli here. So, Frost, he hasn't been very noticeable in the first 2 games. Neither is Noah Cates, but obviously you leave him in more for defensive purposes. I wasn't here last year, so I can't speak to the totality of the situation, but I don't think when you're in a rebuild like this, I don't have any problem with pulling out a player if he's ineffective and he's not noticeable, because Frost obviously has to be the guy that's noticeable in the offensive end.
You mentioned that you weren't here last year, first year back. Was there a player that, when you were watching through camp, watching through the preseason, that jumped off the ice to you, as opposed to how you would have watched them a year ago, or maybe somebody who wasn't even playing at this level last year?
I mean, Bobby Brink, obviously, I think was the guy that everybody noticed right away. And you guys know as well as anyone, it's funny. When you're watching the first regular season game, after the first period, you're like, wow, I forgot this is what actual hockey looks like, especially because you see so many veterans. By the time it's halfway through a preseason game, they're more concerned about not getting hurt, right? So, of course, the young guys trying to make the roster should stand out. But Brink, to his credit, did. And I thought he deserved a place on the team. And obviously he earned it. He's one of them. I thought Emil Andre was someone that stood out a little bit. I thought that he looks like a guy that's not afraid to make a play. And we saw him have a little bit of a rough moment in the Ottawa game where he gets run over by Ridley Gregg. But I thought, he didn't cave in after that. I thought he actually played pretty well the rest of the way. Or, maybe not pretty well, but he didn't make any other egregious mistakes.
Glaring errors. Yeah.
And by the way, just to answer, there was a question that came up on the screen a little bit ago. If you're just joining us now, Morgan Frost out of the lineup. Bobby Brink and Tyson Forster both in. So if you've been waiting for Play the Kids, to some extent, you're getting your wish tonight.
Just not on the blue line.
Yeah, that's
right.
Mark
Yeah.
Stahl in, Emil Andre out. I guess
Rasmus is back.
what?
Well, he's not.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
yeah.
yet. That's right.
He
Yeah.
will, he will be
Yes.
eventually.
Yes. That's
when-
right. It's not tonight.
Morgan Frost being out is certainly going to raise a lot of eyebrows. We just talked about this a little bit ago about what we did or did not see from him. From your perspective, did you see anything redeemable about Morgan Frost's play through 2 games that should warrant a fan's reaction of why is he out?
Well, no, because, I understand that there's a desire to play all the young kids, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, obviously they look at this fourth line as having a role and trying to play that identity. And it's, I just came from the island where they have that notorious fourth line of Casey Siddiquis, Cal Clutterbuck, and Matt Martin. And Torts is using that fourth line a little bit how the Islanders use their fourth line, because Torts has started them in both games, which to me sends the sort of message that we want these guys to go out, provide some early energy, get the bench going. They're responsible enough that they can play against whoever the other team's top line is. So I wouldn't bring up that. Hey,
Like Richmond.
So,
Good to see you, pal.
This is the beauty of the Press Row show. There is life to this show as we are
PR
out.
legend like Richmond.
Here, do you want to just like hop on camera? Well, why don't you just photobomb? Shove your face right there for a second. There you go. See, we have life on the concourse. See, this is what it's all about. This is why we do the Press Row show. As you're saying.
Yeah, the young guys don't all have to play 82 games, right? And sometimes it's good for a young guy to sit in the press box and look from above and sort of get a different perspective on the game. This is not a team that's going to compete for a Stanley Cup this season. So I understand the rotating them in and out and, sitting down with, as long as you're clear as a coaching staff why they're coming out of the lineup, what they need to do, which I'm sure that's what they're doing.
Right. Fair enough. I guess another thing that I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about is, the Ottawa game. There seemed to be a lot of what Hitch used to call passengers,
right,
in that game. That could not have sat well with Torts. The way, I mean, it's not like you sat there and said, well, just this line wasn't good. Most of the team was not good in that game.
Yeah, they took too many penalties.
Yeah, it took a lot of penalties, right? What kind of message do you think that he could send to those guys now that you're back home? You're playing. This Vancouver team's they're no joke this year. They're a good team.
Yep.
To really come out here and say you can't do what you did against Ottawa, or else you're going to have that same result.
Right, and I think that's what you're looking for is the response. I'm sure the guys that didn't play well, and there were obviously a lot of them, know that they didn't play well. They've been told they didn't play well. So you're always just looking for a response, right? And that's the biggest thing with especially the young players is that consistency is the hardest thing to find, right? You don't want them to string together bad games 2-3 at a time. So that's what I think will be most interesting about tonight is, to me, the biggest issue is on the blue line. I don't know if they moved the puck fast enough back there.
Right.
And against a team like Ottawa, that's a fun team.
They
Ottawa
are.
team.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a fun team to watch all season long. They were energized in front of their home fans, home opener. Maybe the 1:00 start was a little bit of a throw off some of the guys for the Flyers, but you want to see a response from the young guys. And I talked to Mark Stahl a little bit before this game, and he's sort of in that mentor role, right? And,
Right.
You talk about we talked about Andre and that sort of turnover he had or forced into the turnover. Mark Stahl says his message, and he's part of the reason he's here is to mentor these young kids. Is you just got to forget it. You just got to move on, and he was proud of the way Andre sort of responded to that giveaway. Now he's not playing tonight, so we'll see if he gets in for the next game. But yeah, you want to see the response. You want to see them try to find some consistency, and it's going to be incremental progress.
Yeah, I think Emil goes down as soon as Rasmus is ready to play.
Yeah,
because I think they wanted to play big minutes with the Phantoms and really kind of play it.
Right.
It doesn't do them any good to kind of be in and out, in and out, in and out.
Right.
So they're kind of giving. I think that they feel like his ceiling is definitely higher than Zamula's, but right now Zamula is probably a little bit better of an option in an NHL game.
Right. And I think we kind of saw that.
Right. And I think that's fair, right? Okay.
Because the defense played pretty well as a group in Columbus.
Yeah.
I thought.
Well, it's the opponent.
Yeah.
Right?
And there was a defender playing for the Blue Jackets who didn't play very well.
Right, exactly. I wonder who you could be referring to there.
I want to get to a comment that came up here. And it's something that's been asked in the past, but they're playing Sanheim on the right side.
Yeah.
And so the question is, and he's done this in the past, but the question is, again, about Morgan Frost, because people want to believe in Morgan Frost. Why not just play Morgan Frost on the wing to help him get his confidence back, take a little bit of that responsibility off? We've talked about this a ton of times on this show, including with, the Jonesies and Brières of the world, about the difference of playing center versus wing. A lot more responsibility at center. Maybe help him get his head on straight, not have to sit up in the press box and see it from up top. Kind of still experience it, but with a little bit less responsibility. Why do you think they ultimately chose to sit him instead of putting Matt on the wing?
You don't want to start switching positions this early in the season. We're in game 3. If they view him as a center, he's a center. He's going to play in the middle. He's got to be better on draws. That's probably part of the reason he's come out. Him and Cates both really have not been very good on faceoffs so far. I don't think you want to start moving these guys around like that. He played center all throughout training camp. You're not going to mess with him and start moving them all around.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, Kev, when you go, and I know we're dwelling on this, but I mean, it's kind of like the surprise news for most people today that Morgan's out. I can speak to where he was a year ago, and he was a guy that seemed to play at his best when the pressure was less. And when the pressure was amplified, he kind of disappeared a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe that's the message that Torts is trying to get across here, because look, the Columbus game, you may not have played great, but the pressure might not have been as high. When you got up to Ottawa and those guys were forechecking like they were forechecking, and your defense was in constant duress, and you're not helping out, and you're not going in and getting pucks back once you give it up and doing those things, I think that's what bothers him the most. And I think that's the message that he wants to send. It's like, we know you have talent. We know you're skilled. But you have to play this part of the game as well, too. Yeah. And if you're not willing to do it when the games are tougher, then you're probably not going to have a long-term spot here.
And let's not gloss over the fact that this is the home opener.
Yeah.
So they're going to introduce every single guy. And I assume the guys that are playing are all going to skate out in their full gear.
Yeah.
And I also assume Morgan Frost is going to be standing behind the bench in a suit and tie.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No, exactly. And in a lot of ways, Torts did this last year with Travis Sanheim, went home to Calgary.
Yep.
It was a healthy scratch there.
That was brutal.
But I mean, that's the kind of, it's the same thing, right? I mean, you're expecting to get this big reception where you're playing, and you don't get to play. And so that's the message that he sent.
And you got to look around the arena, and you're going to look into the faces of some fans that are going to be like, "Why isn't he in the lineup?" Yeah. The fans that aren't spending their hours on Twitter like all of us.
That's exactly right.
Well, Kev, listen, we appreciate you coming on for a few minutes. Congratulations on the new gig. Look forward to following you all season, and we'll have you back on again sometime soon.
Anytime, guys.
All right, thanks.
Thank you much.
Right. Kevin Kurz of The Athletic. Make sure you, if you have a subscription, you follow him. Yep. Follow him on Twitter as well. Kev, what's your Twitter handle? Kev.
We'll find him.
What's your Twitter handle?
We'll put it out there.
K Kurz NHL. There it is. At K Kurz NHL.
I got the remote on the screen
Look
there.
At you. Look at that.
Hey there. How you doing, Toots?
You would think the intern would be able to do this. It's not that he can't. It's that the camera only accepts the remote from the front and not from the side.
We are at a great point in our relationship here as a show that we have an intern, and Anthony is already going to alienate the intern. So
I don't want to alienate the intern.
He's already putting the poor intern on blast. He's done a great job. He's manning the board. He's manning the comments, so I don't have to. And I want to take a look at some of these comments again, because of course, as we've noted in the past, and again, I know I get very long-winded. I get it. I know.
You? No.
It means a lot to be back and to be doing this, and to be doing this at another level. When we announced that we had partnered with the Flyers, most of the reception was very positive. We had a few jamokes who said,
"Oh, does that mean you guys are selling out? You're a bunch of frauds. You're selling out. You're nothing but kind and courteous to this team."
And we had somebody, it was like one of those things where it's like name and a million numbers, who like complained yesterday. And I said, yeah, God forbid we actually give a new regime the chance to prove that they're either good at this or bad at this. Like, God forbid we do it. We are back, and a big part of the partnership was helping us to take what we already did to another level. So you'll see that when we do the regular show, it's going to be in a studio, which is going to be nice.
soon.
It's not going to be overly sanitized. It's still going to feel like the show. And again, we have provisions in our contract that allow us to remain objective in both written word and the podcast. If that weren't the case, we wouldn't have done it. But I'm very happy that we're here. We get to do this. This obviously looks and sounds a lot better than when you and I used to have that one little Yeti mic. And we were huddled together like
Huddled
this.
together on your Yeti mic and one camera off of your computer is what we did.
It's like whose head goes on whose?
Yeah, and we had
whose
like
shoulder.
Wayne Fish and Sam Carchidi wandering aimlessly behind us in the press box. This is a little bit better.
Hey, here's something for objectivity, all right? Question from Tom. Do you guys really think Torts is the coach to lead the rebuild? No, I don't. I think that he's going to be fine for instilling culture, for getting this thing back on the right track. If the question on terms of the rebuild is, do I think John Tortorella will be the coach when this team turns the corner and does go to compete for a cup or takes that next step? Say 3 years down the line, Matvei Mishkov is over here, who, by the way, looks good in the KHL. He's looked good.
Yep.
When you have guys like Cutter Gauthier coming up, when you have Tyson Forster and the Bobby Brinks of the world with multiple years of NHL experience under their belts, do I think Torts will be the coach then? I don't. And I don't think this is a bad thing. I don't think that there's a problem with having somebody who kind of turns this thing around and then hands it off. I think he'll still be involved in the organization. I don't see him being the head coach in 3-4 years when they're trying to compete for a cup. I could be wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. My answer to the question is he the right coach? I think that he can be for this group to get them in the direction that they need to go. Because, look, there's no top-end talent on this team. Other than Couturier, if he proves that he's healthy and fully back, he's certainly a top-end talent. He was a Selke Award winner, like the guys that, one of the better forwards in the league. Yeah. But aside from that, you don't really have that top-end talent. And so what you have is a bunch of guys who, on a good team, can be the bottom part of your lineup. Yeah. And when you have that, they have to play a certain way. Yep. And Torts is going to get them to play that certain way when they're out there every night. Yep. And that's why he's good for this group, okay? That's why he's the right coach for this group. Do I think that that's what he thought it was going to be when he took the job? Probably not, because I feel like he was fed a bill of goods by the previous regime as to what was happening. Oh,
there he
is.
Hilferty. Dan Hilferty. Ladies and gentlemen, he's right
good
there.
Good to see you. Thank you. Good to see you.
Dan Hilferty goes by. Again, we've seen a lot of people tonight. Oh, look at that. The lights go out, but the lights remain on here.
Yes.
On the Press Row show.
Yeah. No, but my point was that Torts is the kind of guy who can make this team better. Yeah. But I also don't believe he will be the coach. I think that there's someone else that is out there. I'm not going to say any names yet.
Waiting in the wings.
But I think that there's somebody else out there that will be the coach of this team when they're a playoff team.
If he doesn't get let go too soon before.
Don't give out any more details.
All right, fine.
That'd be a little.
Oh, hey, by the way, we had a question here from somebody that I seem to recognize. She asks for game score predictions.
Is that your wife?
Yeah, it is.
Didn't we put it on Twitter? Doesn't Nancy follow you on Twitter?
I don't know.
At Joy on Broad?
I don't think she really does the Twitter thing.
What was your prediction? I forget.
My prediction, I think, was
5-4, right?
I think it was 5-4 in overtime.
Flyers.
Bundy was 4-3 Flyers.
Yep. And
now you, sir, are poo-pooing on the Flyers home opener.
We have two people who are undefeated and one person who is winless in these predictions.
Yep.
And that will all change tonight.
That's right.
There will only be one person undefeated.
No.
Yes.
That
only
is true.
one person will be undefeated.
Yes, math.
Now, you could technically still be winless, or you could get your first win. Yeah. But I'm going with the Canucks tonight. I think this is a good Canucks team.
What was your score?
4-2, Vancouver.
Yeah.
4-2. I think that they're going to put a lot of pressure on the Flyers defense, and it's going to be. But look, I think that there's a chance for a bounce back game after the way they played against Ottawa. So you guys might be right on this one. I just like what I've seen. Look, Vancouver in the opener beat Edmonton 8-1.
Yeah.
And then they beat them again. Now, the second game, Edmonton dominated the game, and Vancouver still won the game. But I like what Vancouver does on the offensive end. Brock Besser's a heck of a player. I think that this is going to be a tough matchup for the Flyers.
Vancouver's a team. They're fine.
Okay.
They're not to me, Vancouver isn't the team that blows your doors off. I think they have the ability in moments, in spurts, to do it.
Okay. That's good.
And listen, I have to think that at some point, if I pick the Flyers to win, that they're going to win. It might not be that many gifts. Perhaps I should just hedge my bets and pick their opponent. Hey, there we go. Trevor Harris. Congrats on the success.
Well, it's good that you look down because Andrew's been putting up fan predictions for a few minutes now.
Okay, well, listen.
We have a good
Andrew,
intern.
get ready to pull them all up. Trevor Harris says 5-3 Canucks.
We have more?
I think we have more. He'll get going. Yeah, we need more predictions. Pull up more predictions. So Trevor Harris says that the Canucks are going to win. 3-1 Flyers, says Brian Krall. 3-2 failed comeback after going down 3-0. CMC says 5-1 Flyers. Hart with 44 saves.
44 saves. That's a good one. There's a good one.
Oh, there you go. 5-1 Phillies.
That's a good
Long
pick.
game.
That's a good
hey,
pick,
Ant,
though, by the way.
let's get this on the record. Across the street at the Link, Mexico and Germany are playing a friendly. What's the score over there going to be?
0-0.
Wow. Absolutely stunning here from Lincoln Financial Field.
No, see, we have to put like the microphones in our mouth to do that, to do those voices, right? They have it.
Here we
They
are,
hold
sir.
it off to the side over to over here and talk like that, right?
0-0. All right. So we have the wheels have fallen off. We're 31 minutes into the stream, and the wheels have finally fallen off. Is there anything else that you wanted to get to here pregame?
No, I think this is good for pregame. They're just getting started with the pregame introductions. I think Gritty's going to rappel down from the.
I think you already did.
Did he already rappel down from behind me?
I think he
must have missed that.
I just saw him on the ice. I'm pretty sure he did.
So then he already rappelled down. We watched that practice earlier. We watched him practicing the rappel, which was cool.
By the way, a lot of controversy up here before the game about the goal song.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we got here. We have partnered with the Flyers. And perhaps because we kept that language in that allows us to be critical and objective, perhaps we are not full partners because we asked somebody who would know what the goal song is going to be.
And they won't tell us.
They won't tell us. They said, you'll find out when they score a goal, when the Flyers score a goal.
Well, here's the funny thing.
Here's the thing. If the Flyers got shut out, then that guy's going to have to tell us.
Well, here's the thing, Russ, and maybe you know the answer. Because when I went downstairs to leave, I ran into that same individual, and he said, "Did you hear the goal song?"
He said that to me when I came up here.
So we must have missed it when we were downstairs getting a bite to eat. We must have missed them playing and practicing the goal song. So we'll see what it is. All I know is apparently there's some kind of like thing with songs now with artists suing teams using these things.
It's a lot of there's like the royalty thing.
Royalties, so they got to be careful.
Plus you have to get it in like perpetuity or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's weird.
The window. It's hard.
So it can't be dupe. That's not coming back. It can't be bro him.
ECW and WWF says dancing on my own.
There you go. Well,
I don't think it's gonna be dancing on my own.
If that's the case, it would be something.
That
else.
would be the worst co-opting since this team used dupe.
Yes.
And like I like dupe. I love dupe because I'm a Union fan, right? I like dupe.
Yes.
But that's a Union thing. Actually, it's a French team's thing that the Union stole, but whatever. Dupe is with the Union. All right. Now, I don't know what this is going to be. I have been told it will not be the Becky Lynch theme song, which they used through the preseason, which we used on an Instagram post earlier today because they've used it through the preseason. It won't be that. Do us a favor. Drop in the comments below if you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook. Give us a prediction what you think the goal-scoring song is going to be. If you win, we'll send you something. Maybe. If you're the first person, we'll figure it out. We'll send you something.
Well, you know what we can do? You don't have to send them something. I'll tell you what it is.
What's that?
If they predict the goal song.
Yes.
Okay, because we have one more slot open for this.
Yes.
Lunch with us and Bundy.
Oh.
Pizza with us and Bundy. We have two other people who've already won that are going to be joining us. We have a spot for a third person.
Doing?
Yeah, we have a spot for one more person. So if you correctly predict the goal song, you get to be the third person that joins us for lunch with Bundy. Pizza. He wants to do pizza. So it's going to
Ain't
be
that an enticing offer, ladies and
pizza
gentlemen?
with Bundy.
Let's see. I want to see if we have the chant part from the Seth Rollins theme. That's
the Action News theme song. There's a guess.
They tried doing that. The DJ one year did like a riff on that.
And guess what happened to the DJ?
Something from the Roots.
That would be cool. Something from the Roots.
Yeah.
I like that.
I would like to see whatever they go with. I hope it's something that has local ties.
It's a Miracle by Barry Manilow.
The weather outside. What was that?
Somebody guessed It's a Miracle by Barry Manilow.
Oh Yo, if we have a Barry Manilow song this year.
No, but it's a miracle. Because they scored a goal. It's a miracle.
Okay,
That's the joke.
They're going to put the biscuit in the basket.
By the way, you know what else I noticed, Russ, when
that?
Kevin Kurz was over here?
What'd you notice?
You really are short.
Yeah, I do think that it was really impressive, though, and this will also carry through to first intermission, is that we went shortest to tallest.
Yeah, we didn't put you in the middle.
Somebody in the comments before said, geez, Russ, get a soapbox to stand on.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that. I think that's probably
That's
about
it. We'll wrap it up here.
I will
Just let them know what's going to be on the screen, though.
Well, that's what we're figuring out. When we go off, we are going to keep the stream up. So you're not going to have to go look for a first intermission link or a second
Same
intermission
link.
link.
It'll still be there.
Post-game link. It's all going to be here. Now, you'll see the logo for a bit. There's something that we were working on with the Flyers. We're going to see if it works. If it doesn't work, you're just going to see the Snow the Goalie logo until the first intermission show. Literally, as soon as that horn blows,
we'll be
we
here.
are going to be here. There will be no commercial break. There will be no ads. We are going, well, maybe on the YouTube stream, but there are going to be like no intentional stoppages on our part. So when that horn sounds, which will be obviously before you see it on TV or hear it on the radio, we will go live with the first intermission show. Do us a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, click that like button. It really does help. Subscribe to Snow the Goalie on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok at Snow the Goalie. And join us for the first intermission where it'll be myself and Bundy. Bundy did pregame on the radio. It's going to be great to have that butte on the screen. I will have to adjust it because he is very tall. Hopefully, maybe I'll stand on something for the intermission. So
you're going to have to, because otherwise you ain't going to be in the camera shot.
That's it. I just saw Michael Bolton was still on there.
Did somebody do Rick Roll? That would be great.
No,
Rick Astley.
That would be
good.
good.
Rick Astley.
I'm trying to think of what a Michael Bolton song would be. That would be a good goal song. You think of one? No? Okay.
No.
All right. We will be tweeting through this game at Snow the Goalie, at Ant SanFilippo, at Joy on Broad. Again, thank you for checking in with us. We'll be back for the first intermission. You can keep it here on the YouTube stream or on Facebook. We should have something pulled up here once the game starts. Otherwise, it'll just be the logo, and we'll see you first intermission. So for Ant, for Bundy, who will be here soon, I'm Russ. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Press Row Show, where we are live, where we have, oh, look at this, I have to adjust it because Captain Tall there on the other end has joined us. Bundy is here, ladies and gentlemen, for the Press Row Show. It's good to have you here. We missed you during pregame, but I feel warm. I feel warm and fuzzy in my heart that you're here for first intermission.
You know, actually, it just occurred to me as I stand here, how far we've come in a couple years.
I know, right?
Here we are, Attic Flyers game, doing an intermission live. And Russ, I'll be joining you after. This is cool, guys. I mean, it's great to be in the building. It really sets the spirit of the team, the franchise tonight on opening night.
Yep.
And they've had a great start to boot, at least on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's 2-0, and it's amazing to me that it's 2-0, Bundy, because they spent the entire period hemmed into their own zone. But they got a goal. Igor Zamula gets his first NHL goal. Gets a little bit of a break. It deflects off the Canucks player's stick. Nice pass by Konechny, so he gets that first goal. And then Coots scores on a penalty shot, which we weren't 100% sure should have been a penalty shot. Like, we were talking about alternatives to the penalty shot, but yet he made like a real slow play, backhand to forehand move. And they're up 2-0 after the first period, so you got to be happy with the result.
Absolutely thrilled with the result. Torts is probably going to go back and say, guys, we got away with one. Carter Hart was very good, made some key stops, but the balance of the game was in the Flyers zone.
Right.
And they need to clean that up because you don't want Vancouver can score 2 goals the way they've been playing lately pretty quick. So the Flyers got to get on their horse here at the beginning of the period and try to get that third goal.
I think there were a lot of questions going into this game about what we would see out of Sean Couturier, a guy who's missed 2 seasons, a guy who, as of yesterday, Torts even came out and said it was going to be a game-time decision. He's knocked up, he's banged up. Shouldn't say he was banged up, carrying a knock, and that there was a chance he wouldn't play. You see him go out. He maybe doesn't look like sulky Sean Couturier, but it has to, give him some confidence that he's been able to kind of play his brand of hockey, to go out, play his game. And that was a pretty skillful move in the penalty shot.
Yeah, what that does was he kind of turned his body and went in backwards with his hip.
Yeah.
So his left hip facing the goalie. And what you can do with that, you can either throw the puck high in your backhand or pull it forward like he did. And he did. So what it does is it leaves the goalie guessing of what you're going to do. And anytime you have a goaltender that has to guess the situation, it makes it a soccer-like play. Demko could have stopped that just as easily, but he didn't. And I think that's what's good with Coots. I don't think his movement is great, but I think his movement has come along since the beginning of camp, and that's a positive sign.
Bundy, I tweeted about both goals, but then I put out one other tweet that people cared about a hell of a lot more than either goal. And that's that the new goal song is the same goal song that used to play when you were a member of the team. Van Halen's Ain't Talking About Love. I don't know, maybe went off, 4 times in your career when you scored? But, I mean, just curious.
Sniping.
Just curious what your thoughts are about bringing that baby back.
I can help you get him over the glass.
I remember every one of them. They were all impactful goals. All 29 career. No, seriously. Again, one of the things, I got here at 3:15 today. I went outside. I mean, me and Dan Milford, by chance and coincidence, we're taking pictures of each other for fans. So, again, and that goes back to what this team was, right? We've talked to Dan about that. He says you have to, honor the past and honor the fans that have been here. The one thing you're getting tonight, guys, is a return to what Flyers hockey was. The product on the ice is not there yet. Yeah. That Stanley Cup magic team is being built, and it's going to take time. But the parts of that Snyder cared the most about have returned to the building and to the fan base. Everybody's happy, and everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about it, and I saw there was a comment down here from Krushkin. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook, you can comment. We'll bring comments up on the screen. Intern Andrew, who's with us today, we'll bring up those comments on screen. If you're watching on Twitter, we won't be able to pull your comments up. We appreciate you tweeting at us, but head over to youtube.com/@snowthegoalie and join the conversation there. Couturier is a guy who I think, had he been healthy, was somebody that had been considered a front runner for captain on this team. Ultimately, John Tortorella chose not to roll with the captain this year, or at least as of now, is not going to name a captain. Claims it will be the whole season. Whether or not that will end up being the case, we'll see. What is it that Sean Couturier brings to this team that would make a coach consider him as a potential captain?
Well, first off, he's been here a long time, so he understands the team. The other thing, too, is he's a smart hockey player. He makes right decisions. He plays the game the right way. He's a two-way player, so it's not like you're just leading with all that beautiful offense like a Connor McDavid. He plays the game the right way, obviously, with his Selke Trophy win in the past. But, again, that'll have to be a body of work for me. He's going to have to do that over 40 games consistently to get that C on his jersey. He just missed 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a coach, I know if I'm a coach, I'm looking to see where he's at, both physically and mentally, to make that kind of a decision. Scotty Lottens is still the only guy I think we're in the A, right?
Yep.
Correct.
As of now.
As of now, right? So, Torts has that kind of built in a little bit, but I think it does give him a kind of a look-see type of thing for the year, and again to reevaluate and evaluate who's here and who can be a good person, good guys in the locker room. Jonesy and Danny will also do that as well.
We've talked a lot about the positives from the first period, Bundy, but we would be remiss if we made pretend that this was like a great period, right? You said at the beginning, Torts is going to tell them they kind of got away with one. Defensively, this team really looks sloppy. They really look like they're making panic decisions and not smart decisions. As someone who's been in those spots, like what's going through those defensemen's minds when they're trying to make the wrong pass or they don't do the right thing with the puck?
Well, the first thing I noticed, they don't seal it off well. And this is a team that I thought, just by looking at the defense, may struggle, just in their own zone. I mean, this is a team that they have hopes for. They hope Sanheim has a good year, Ristolainen has another good year, and guys develop. But at the same time, there was 2 or 3 sequences in the first period that Vancouver had the puck and the Flyers just could not get the puck back. So as a defenseman, I knew that the most important thing was, again, it's an effort thing. You got to get in. You have to seal the body off and then free the puck and somebody else come and get it. What the Flyers were doing was too much circling around in the zone. Vancouver would draw straight lines going to the net, but every single time they repossessed it because the Flyers would get turned back around. The defensemen have to stop the play down below the hash marks, and then you have to have help from your center to come in and support that play. Whether it's getting into the weak side defenseman on the other side of the net or making a quick play to the center. Flyers did not have a good enough poise in their own zone that first period. And as I said, they're up 2-0. So easily, though, could be flipped the other way.
You talked about getting help from the center, and it's an interesting thing. It was something we were talking about pregame. I wanted to get your take on it. One of the reasons Morgan Frost is not in this lineup is likely because he's not been helpful enough doing the things that centers need to do when they don't have the puck, right? You can always going to lose the puck, but you got to find a way to get it back.
Yeah.
And so he's out of the lineup. I want to get your take on that because there's a lot of guys in this lineup who, after that Ottawa game, you could have said, oh, you were that bad? You need to sit. And Torts picked Morgan Frost to make an example out of.
Listen, he's been with Morgan Frost last year. We saw this happen before with Morgan Frost. Torts has put him in the doghouse before. He's an easy guy, it seems, for Torts because I think he sees him as that one-way offensive player where Noah Cates has not been any better. Neither has Owen Tippett.
Yep.
So if you're really going to do it fairly, you should have put 3 names in a hat and pulled one. Maybe he did. Maybe it was Morgan Frost's name that came out. I doubt it, but I do think it's unfair. But there's also a part of that at Morgan Frost has to be the individual's got to look at himself in the mirror and say, I need to be better.
Yeah, I think Cates probably gets he's got a little money in the bank, as Elaine Vigneault used to say.
Yeah.
That, he was so good for Torts last year that he's the kind of guy that, okay, if he's had 1 or 2 bad games, you're not going to bench him.
Right.
Because of how good he was a season ago. Whereas Morgan Frost was far more inconsistent last season. And so to have those inconsistencies creep back into his game so soon is probably why he's the first guy made an example of.
Yeah, and as long as for me as it's done fairly, if he comes back in and plays well, then you have to honor that. And I think they will. He got a new 2-year deal in the offseason. But, at the same time, in support of Torts, he's got to do what's best for his team every night. There's a new president, there's a new boss here. Even though he's well paid and he's got term in his contract, he wants to continue to build this
Right.
thing, help build it too. So there's an onus on him and a responsibility for him to be true to the organization and the players that play well. I don't like that Frost is out of the lineup. I'm a Morgan Frost fan. I don't like it at all, but I think that somebody had to pay the price for those kind of mid-age guys not stepping up in the first 2 games, and he ended up taking the bullet for it.
Well, a big part of him being out of the lineup was so that we can get a look, and the coaches could get a look at both Tyson Forster and Bobby Brink. We talked about this pregame about everybody wants to play the kids, play the kids. All right, the kids played. Did you guys see anything from Tyson Forster or Bobby Brink that make you say, hey, it was worth the change to the lineup?
No, I didn't see anything. As a matter of fact, they were kind of invisible. Obviously, Zamula gets the goal, right? So give him a little bit of props on that, on that play, on that shift. But again, even in they were so in their own end the entire time. Like I felt like the penalty kill did a nice job on the one PK. That was, they were looking for another positive. There's another positive, and Forster was on the ice for the Zamula goal. Didn't really do anything for me. I think Konechny makes the play there, right? So. No, I didn't see anything, Russ, to answer your question from either Brink or Forster that made me go, oh, yeah, wow, look at how good they played there.
Yeah, and again, it's first period at home and your home opener, and there may be nerves or other things going on for those younger guys. There was some good stuff that period. Like Coots, I thought was pretty solid, which I want to see strides with.
Yeah.
I thought Sanheim was okay, getting the puck out. He sealed it a couple times. But there was still a lot of young guys where some of those warts were exposed a little bit.
We get a lot of questions, and of course, as we mentioned before, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, send your questions over. We'll be happy to bring them up on the screen. Jay Greby asks, it's early. I'm sure this is an overreaction, but if Frost doesn't look better after the scratch, any chance they could look to move him? Would anyone be interested? I think we can probably now discuss the fact that his name did come up late in the offseason. I'm not saying to which team, but there are teams in the league who have interest in Morgan Frost. I'm just not so sure that the Flyers are ready to move off him.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to put it, Russ.
Yeah, I did that diplomatically.
Yeah, you
I didn't
did.
burn anything.
I didn't know where you were going with that for a
Yeah.
second because we were privy to some stuff. But to answer Jay's question, I do think, Bundy, that there's a chance that if the Flyers can improve their roster in some way, that Morgan Frost could be a piece that can go somewhere else as a change of scenery candidate, because we've seen the talent that he has, we've seen the skill level that he has, and other teams would be interested, right? But he also has a manageable contract for a lot of teams with that 2-year deal.
He does.
Right? So I think that if you determine that he's not a guy that's going to get it here, that he's not going to take that next step, then maybe, you can get something for him. He would have value.
He does, but he's one of those guys also that if you look down the road, and I'm not saying that they won't move or they're going to try, when you sit a guy out, I think this is more messaging than it is, because if you were trying to move him, you'd be trying to highlight him.
No, but what I'm saying,
let's say to you, I'm just saying that might be what it is. But he has significant value. But remember, too, to the Flyers, there could be value as well with that number.
So I guess what Jay's asking is, if he comes back and he's still not there, is that almost a red flag that maybe this guy is not what we think he is?
But you got to give him more than a 3-game
Oh, I
look.
agree. Absolutely.
You got to give him a good 25 games.
For sure.
Let him get his feet ready
sure.
again and see if there's anything there. He did turn the corner in the second half last year.
He was great in the second half last year.
And I've seen guys that were just dog meat starters. Like, I ain't using that, but brutal starters in the NHL.
Yep.
And when the big games came in January, man, they were there.
Yeah.
And so that does happen. And they didn't care about their points. They came to play when the games were big, and they showed up for the ones where you're trying to get to December or the end of December.
Let's talk about a guy that a lot of people had questions about in the offseason that we brought this up with Jonesy when we had him on the show. This organization put a lot into the goalie position. They went out and acquired through trade, through drafts, through signings. I think it was 4 additional goalies into this organization. Carter Hart got the start again, 3rd consecutive game. There were questions going into this one about whether or not we would see Carter Hart in net or if they would go to Sam Ersson in goal for the home opener. He looked solid in that period. As we mentioned, this team was pinned in their own zone consistently. Hart kind of stood on his head a few times. What do you guys think of Hart's performance in that first period?
Really good, really solid, covered his angles well. He gave the Flyers a chance, and he's going to have to probably be as good again.
I agree. I mean, Carter was really good in the first period. The whole game was right in front of him.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a lot of saves. I mean, the Flyers actually did a nice job of keeping the puck away from the net a little bit. I'll give them that much credit. But when they got through, Carter had to be good, and he really was.
There was a question here. One thing that somebody did say is that they thought that perhaps what we should see going forward is that move of Lawton to center and continuing to play Forster and Brink. But there is a question here from Cliff, or it was just there, about whether or not, I don't know if you could bring that back up there, Andrew. There was a question about,
He'll get it.
It was there, whatever. There was a question about Frost. Is it a matter of him struggling? Is it a matter of him not understanding what it is that Torts is looking for him, that he's not providing, hence he's out of the lineup?
Well, I'll be honest with you guys. The other night, I thought he just had a really bad night. I also thought Noah Cates did. I thought Owen Tippett did. I thought Scotty Lawton did as well. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
There's 82 games. You're just going to be bad some nights, whether you try to be or not.
Yeah.
I'm willing to chalk it up at that with Game 3, a home opener. I think there would have been a better way to handle the situation. Put him back in. He answered the bell for you last year when you called him out. He certainly earned the right to play in this game tonight. That's not the case. Torts does owe it to the organization to put what he considers the best players on the ice nightly.
All right, now, as we pointed out pregame, we came into this with the unofficial Snow the Goalie point system. The standings, we each put out our predictions pregame. It's a point if you get the result correct. It's another point if you get the exact score. Ant picked the Canucks to win. You and I picked the Flyers. I have no points. I could perhaps get a point tonight. You could remain undefeated. He could get his first loss. What is it that the Canucks need to do in the second period to get Anthony back on track and perhaps see Vancouver take a lead or chip away?
Probably, if I'm Rick Tocchet, I'm telling him just go and play the way you did.
Yeah.
You know, be hard on the Flyers' defense, make life miserable in the offensive zone or the defensive zone for the Flyers, and go after the game. They had a good period. They just fell down 2-0. Flyers, don't sit back and try to hang on to this. That won't work out. They need to push the pace more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Bundy on that. You know, they have too many talented forwards in Vancouver to let them play the entire period in your zone. They're going to score if that's the case. Like we were kind of anticipating a goal there, you know, right before the penalty shot. It was like, it's coming, and the Flyers got a break. They can't play that period, second period, third period, like they played the first. Otherwise, I'm going to be the one that's correct at the end of the game.
All right, the second period's about to begin. We will be back with the second intermission. It'll be myself and Bundy. Ant is going to go to the capital J journalist thing, go over and cover the NLCS game 2. Give us a score prediction before you head out.
Phillies win this one 6-2.
Wow.
All right, wow. That's something.
6-2.
All right, we'll be back in the second intermission. Thanks, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We are live for the second intermission here at Wells Fargo Center. The Flyers with a 2-0 lead. I'm Russ Joy, and this, of course, is the man that you've all been waiting for. He was here for the first intermission, but now front and center. And that's Bundy. Find him on Twitter at Therien6. Bundy, I want to grab as many comments as we can this period, kind of turn the second period show over a little bit to the fans watching. Of course, you can watch and join on YouTube, youtube.com/@SnowTheGoalie, on Facebook @SnowTheGoalie, and then, of course, over on Twitter @SnowTheGoalie. If you're on Twitter, we can't pull your questions up on the screen, so please, we consider joining us on YouTube or Facebook. Flyers looked, I think, better in that period. Anything that stood out to you?
They did not get hemmed in like they did in the first. I thought that they got a little bit of maybe the cobwebs out, maybe the home butterflies for a home opener. I thought Vancouver actually had a great first period, and I thought the Flyers in turn reciprocated that favor in the second. Vancouver's a skilled team. You know, they got players like Hughes on the point, Pettersson up front, Brock Besser. So you've got to be ready for them and prepared. And I thought the second period was a much, much better period by the Flyers, getting a couple power plays with some hard work down low. And that's how you win hockey games, really doing that, keeping the momentum down, but they're going to have to do it for a third period. Feels like Vancouver's been all around it. Yeah. But Carter Hart's been excellent as well.
That second period, you know, you had, about 4.5 minutes left. Scott Lawton draws the high sticking. The power play looked maybe not crisp, maybe not what you would want to see at the mid-season, but they did generate some high-danger chances. They did have the chance to put it in the back of the net a few times. What stood out on that power play there at the end of the second for you?
Thatcher Demko. No, I mean, listen, he was unbelievable that whole period. I mean, he made some, I would say, 5-10 bell saves to keep Vancouver in this game. But, you know, again, the Flyers had a couple of a quick little tic-tac-toe plays and give and goes. I remember one by at the sideboards by Konechny, and he had another great shot on net. This is a really well-played game, I think, by the Flyers, and they have to just continue putting their pedal down, especially the second period. First was getting ready, getting through the first, through the fans in the building, a new start here at home. And second period, much more the kind of hockey that I think we'll get accustomed to through the year. David
Castleman with something that I think it probably is music to the ears of other Flyers fans, that the team looks hungry tonight, that they look hungry. You mentioned maybe the cobwebs, maybe some of the nerves that could typically affect the team, especially a team that has as many young players in the lineup as this one does. They're not getting out hustled. The first period was iffy. You know, you mentioned the fact that in the first period, the Vancouver was buzzing a bit more. Yeah. That second period looked more of what you would expect a John Tortorella-led team to look like.
More what you expect the Flyers team to look like, you know, and that's what you want the work ethic. That's something that they've talked about, even Jonesy and Danny. I mean, we want to get back to this organization being known as a hard work team. And certainly with Torts, I mean, he's had that stamp. He's a tough, demanding coach, but this is more about organizational progress for me. There'll be many coaches that'll come and go over the years.
Sure.
But you should never lose the roadmap or the blueprint of what this team stands for in terms of their hard work ethic, their values, competitive spirit. Doesn't win every year, but that sets the table for the next group to come.
As everyone knows, former NHL defenseman, a guy that a lot of people had questions about entering the season. Would he make the team? Would he play significant minutes? Igor Zamula, having himself a game, had the first goal of his career and the first goal of the night. What have you seen from Igor Zamula in this game, and has he lived up to some of the high expectations that people had for him?
I think he's played really well. He's been smart tonight. He's made good defensive plays. He's had a good gap. Of course, getting a goal is always a bonus. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to fill the net a lot, but anytime you can get production from a defenseman is a good thing. Yeah, he's a guy. I thought in the first game was, not bad, and I thought tonight, and I think he had the night off in another game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But back in, playing well, making solid plays in the corner. Getting things sealed for a defenseman, getting that puck stopped, and then working on the transitional part of the zone, out of the D zone is the most important thing now for a modern-day defenseman. But he's done a good job. You have to still defend in the D zone. Can't just be about puck movement. You have to defend because there's so many skilled players. I thought he did a very good job.
Another guy that we had talked about, and we talked about with Jonesy last week, is Travis Sanheim, a guy who was going to get thrust into a higher profile role. I mean, obviously, as we talked about, Ivan Provorov moved in the offseason. Not a guy that the new regime viewed as a true number one defenseman. Travis Sanheim signed a massive deal last year. Didn't live up to it in the first season. Maybe that was weighing on his mind. Big contract. He gets to come into this season. Jonesy noted that he added 17 pounds of muscle. Do you see anything different in the play of Travis Sanheim through these first 3 games? Are you seeing a more confident guy? Does it look like he's not overthinking it like he did a season ago?
I thought he had a good game against Ottawa too, and he got stripped of that puck late in the second period, and that's all you get remembered for. But I think he's done a good job. I think he's done a good job tonight, getting up the ice, trying to be a difference maker. It's hard sometimes when you're out on the ice, you play significant minutes. Probably to place a few more minutes than you'd want to initially play him. But again, that's the situation that's presented to him. So make the most of it. He's our most important defenseman in terms of his ability to skate, defend. He's got to be good at that. But I think he's taken a step this year. I think he looks pretty good out on the ice.
Another guy that people didn't know what to expect from, Cam Atkinson. And we talked in the first intermission about Sean Couturier's play and about him maybe looking a little bit stiff still. Working his way back in, serious back injuries, missed 2 seasons. Cam Atkinson, have you seen anything from him today that makes him look maybe not 100% Cam Atkinson, but positive signs?
A little bit, Russ. When I'm watching him out there, I know he had a couple bursts of speed, but he's not been in the forefront for me in this game. That doesn't mean he hasn't played well.
Sure.
I just don't think he's been a guy that's taken a real big bite of the apple in this game. He's been okay. This is a kind of a tight game, and when I look at the score in terms of shots on goal, the Flyers 33-12.
Yeah, it's crazy,
and it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
When you're watching, it felt like Vancouver in the first period could have had a 20-5 shot advantage, but that necessarily wasn't the case. So, I think when you look at this period here, you've got to be ready for Vancouver the first 5 minutes of this period. Don't let them take the play to you. And if you're the Flyers, you got to be ready to come back out with a lot of pizzazz and make sure that you're determined to win that third period. You got a 2-0 lead. These are important games. Yep. You don't want to squander it by letting Vancouver come out and dictate the tempo and the pace early.
Eric Berkey takes it to a guy that obviously when he was first signed, there were a lot of questions about. Is he needed in this kind of NHL? And that, of course, is Nick Deslauriers. Eric says Deslauriers has been a tremendous signing, had a great back check. The whole fourth line grind really well. We've talked about this fourth line. We've talked about the fact that there's that subsect of fans that want to quote unquote play the kids, having all kids, like the daycare fourth line. Torts really seems to like the fourth line. Jonesy does. Briere does. Have they lived up to, I guess, what the coaching staff is looking for in a fourth line?
They're a great fourth line. Deslauriers is willing to provide physicality. As Eric mentioned there, he did a great job on that back check, broke up a play, really hustled. He will fight Hathaway, same thing. He had a great play, too, a little bit earlier for a chance at a goal. And Ryan Poehling, he's a guy that was a first-round pick. Didn't work out in terms of he being a high-end talent. Yeah. But he's a guy that can, do stuff in your depth lines. And certainly with the size they have and their mobility a little bit to get in on the puck, I think it's a great thing to have in the team. And it makes other guys feel comfortable, too.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, if you're out there watching right now, and many of you are, let us know where you're checking in from. We had people checking in from the UK during pregame. Yeah. We had Massachusetts. We had Rhode Island. We had Texas. So if you're out there, if you're in the Philly area, by all means, let us know where you are. But if you're somewhere farther away, let us know where you are and what you think of the game so far. Send over your questions, comments, and concerns. And don't forget, we do the show every week. Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube, youtube.com/@SnowTheGoalie. Here we go. Danny says Central Florida. We've got Matthew checking in from Virginia. Rich is in Huntsville, Alabama.
Love it.
We've got Titan Flyer checking in from Salisbury, North Carolina. We've got Syracuse, Delco.
Portland, Oregon.
List. Montreal.
Yep.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui, très bien.
Très bien. Incroyable.
Oui.
Absolument. Eddie Revox, East Tennessee. We got Blues Country here from PSU Flyers. Allison is coming in from Houston. We have Robert in Ohio, Dusty in North Carolina, Portland, Oregon. That's the farthest so far.
That's
farthest west at least. Hamilton, Ontario, Manitoba, Downingtown, the very far town of Downingtown. Not that far. Look at this. We got one in the building.
That's what we want. We want you watching this.
That's right.
Intermission. You're never going to get lied to. You're going to get told the truth all the time.
By the way, Oliver, you're in the building. Feel free to let everybody know in your section about the press row show and about Snow the Goalie.
Yep.
And we're up in the sports book. So if you want to swing up and say, hey, take a picture with Bundy,
yep,
we're up here
I'd love to.
by all means. We've got Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got Johnstown, PA, home of Slapshot. British Columbia, Baltimore, Jersey Shore, PA. How about that? All right, section 203. Look at this. We have people in the arena. And instead of going and getting popcorn, instead of watching there's really nothing on the screen right now. It's the thing where they do the bouncing logo.
And you know what, Russ? We got 6 minutes, and I'm going to tell people right now.
Yeah.
This would be a great way for the Flyers to get the home season started.
Yeah.
They need this win here. Keeps their heads up above water. You don't want to fall down with the hungry Edmonton team coming in here next game.
Yep.
Things have been awful for the Oilers to start because of the team the Flyers are playing tonight. This is a great opportunity in the third period. Kind of give the fans a little bit of what I hope that they come to expect for the year. Good, hard, smart, playing a third period type of team that makes it difficult on teams. That's what I need to see here tonight.
I guess, I think that's the one thing that when Ant and I did this show 3 years ago and 2 years ago and maybe even 4 years ago, I don't remember. There were so many games that you would come to in this building and the Flyers would get embarrassed on their home ice. They just never looked. I mean, there were spurts, right? There was the season that got cut short because of COVID, that they eventually lead to the bubble and everything, where this team would just go through these spurts where they looked disinterested. They didn't look like they had any kind of real bite or fight to them. Now, it's early. It's the first home game. We're not all of a sudden going to go from being, the critical and objective podcast to being, propaganda, as we said on our announcement show. But in fairness, for the first game, the team is doing what they're supposed to do. They look like a Torts-led team. Now, we have not yet done the 20-game prediction show. I think we're going to be doing that later this week.
Mm-hmm.
Last season, we said a Torts training camp, those teams typically come out, they look better, they're better conditioned, they typically get out to a better start than some of their counterparts because of how rough Torts makes training camp. Are we seeing that through 3 games? Are we seeing a team that is just better conditioned? Or do you think that there's a chance that this team maybe has a little bit more to it than people might have thought going into the season?
You know what, Russ? I think we talked about this the same last year, and we mentioned it again. Guys are going to come in here, and they're going to play really hard for Torts. He's what guys in the league would call an impression coach.
Yep.
Leave your first impression on him, and hopefully he leaves you alone.
Yep.
He's not everybody's cup of tea. I can
Sure.
tell you that. I mean, you could ask any player and tell you that. But if I was a player, though, and I'm not saying, I would do the same thing, and I would be out there trying to impress him. So he's not up my rear end, harassing me all year long. I would try to be at my very best. And I think that's what would happen. We called it last year, thought they'd actually have a good start, and maybe things would fall into place. They're going to work hard every night. That's one thing I can tell you about this team, talking to Jonesy and Danny. That's going to be demanded from them. And John Tortorella is the guy who's demanded before, and he will continue to do so.
By the way, I love this idea. Matthew says, get enough of us at the arena one day. And he had a typo here, but we can chant Snow the Goalie. Now, that would be something. I'll tell you what. If we ever get to a point where we can organize enough people to come to a game, start a Snow the Goalie chant, I'm not saying Ant's going to take a shirt off, all right? Because I think that'll get kicked out. I think it'll probably get the partnership torn up. Now, you on the other hand, I don't know, kind of svelte, looking good. I don't know. Hey, we have an enemy checking in.
Okay.
Over on Facebook. Go Canucks, go.
All right.
They look like they're about ready to go home through 2 periods.
Let's wait, Russ. This is a momentum league. I can tell you that's one thing.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying is with the Flyers this period, it's so important to have a good start to it.
Yeah.
Because a 2-goal lead is nothing anymore.
Yeah.
It's nothing at all. You can erase it in a minute if you're doing the right things. But if you're not, you can make life difficult. First 5 minutes of this period is going to be paramount for me.
Now, we talked about the fact that late in that period, this team put together a pretty, I'd say, respectable power play. If they are to go back on special teams, if they do get another power play, who's one guy that the fans should be looking for something better out of in the third period? Is there somebody that they should cue in on?
In terms of Vancouver?
No, in terms of the Flyers.
I'd like to see Owen Tippett shoot that puck.
Yeah.
When he's out there, he gets in one of those lanes, let that snapshot go, or wrist shot. He's got a great shot. I'd like to see more from him in that way. And also the guys in front of the net, be more of a distraction. Yeah. Standing there is one thing. Moving around a little bit and making it difficult for the other team's opposition defense is another way to get on their team's skin.
There were comments about the power play itself that maybe they're looking for the perfect shot again. That has been, I don't know, like a systemic issue with the Flyers for years and years and years. When you have this many young guys in the lineup as this team does, you mentioned Owen Tippett, still a young player. At what point do you, are we talking like 3 years into a career, 4 years in, where you stop overthinking the play and you do play more instinctual hockey? Or is that too blanket statement?
It's like going to a job, Russ.
Yeah.
And you just work the job for as long, you know exactly how to do it. It's no different than anything else. You become familiar with it. You become used to it.
Yeah.
And that makes your life a lot easier. It doesn't mean you still don't do dumb things. It just means that you are used to the pace of the play.
One place that we don't do dumb things is here on Snow the Goalie,
we don't.
Or on the Press Row Show. A big thank you to everybody who checked in. Don't forget, we'll be back here for postgame.
Yep.
Now, admittedly, on most nights for home games, we will do a probably half hour, maybe a little bit longer. Depends on how things go. Depends on the amount of comments. It depends on the flow of the game. Not selfishly here, but there's the soccer game, there's the baseball game, and you and I don't want to get stuck down here until midnight. So we'll probably do about a 20-ish minute post game, 15, 20. We will be here as soon as as the horn ends, the horn blows for the end of the game. We'll be right back here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. In the meantime, we'll be tweeting about the game. We'll talk to you guys after the game. So for Bundy, I'm Russ. We'll talk to you very shortly. Let's throw people to this. Ladies and gentlemen, it happened. The Flyers played a game. They won that game. The Flyers are now 1-0 at home. They have now collected 4 of 6 potential points in the first 3 games of the season. They're off to a hell of a start. The 3 stars, we got it coming up. 3rd star was Igor Zamula. The 2nd star was Sean Couturier. And they're about to announce the 1st star of the game. They have not done it yet.
Pretty easy guess for me.
Who do you think it's going to be?
It's going to be Carter Hart.
And the number 1 is Carter Hart. Carter Hart, ladies and gentlemen. So, thank you for joining us here for Postgame. Flyers win 2-0. And it's funny because in the second intermission, you and I were talking about, hey, if the Flyers get a power play early in the period, what do you want to see? And we went through this. Special teams that period, a little bit iffy. 3rd period, I don't know.
Listen, they were able to clamp down on it.
Yeah.
Vancouver had a goal. It looked like it might have hit Hart in the back and rolled down into the net, but there was goaltender interference on that.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. You know what? What's really funny with this, you could have actually made a case for both goaltenders to get a star in this game. Couturier certainly is a good one. Back home for the first time in quite a while. Excellent goaltender. Even Demko, I didn't love the goals, but I mean, one was a penalty shot by Coots. He played well. Hart played really, really well. Yep. This is a great home opener for the team. Yeah. There's a lot going on here tonight down at the buildings. A lot that can distract a hockey player early in the year. That wasn't the case tonight. I thought Vancouver had a lot of really good first period momentum. Yep. Flyers got opportunistic goal scoring. Vancouver did not score, but rest of the game, I think really Flyers kind of dictate tempo in a lot of ways. They kept it simple the way they're going to have to do. I thought it was an excellent win for this team tonight.
It is amazing when you think about the way that a game can flip on its head. You get through that first period without conceding a goal if you're the Flyers. That could have easily been, had Carter Hart not had the kind of night that he did, that could have been a 2-0 Vancouver lead at the end of the first. Yeah, it could have gotten worse. But this team, to your point, clamped down in the second, did a pretty decent job of clamping down in the third. I don't know where you stand on it, but when you think about the way that a team is able to escape the first period the way that the Flyers did without the game kind of getting away from them, and they managed to hold on, sometimes home ice advantage actually does matter in this league.
It does. I think the one thing, Russ, sorry, my phone fell off there.
You don't have to apologize for anything. It's the end of the game. Here we are.
You know what it was? I really think, so when you look at the Flyers, they're a team that, quite frankly, has to have a lead for them to play in a comfort zone. They don't want to be down 2-0 in games because when you're playing chase, that becomes very, very tough on a team. And through the course of the year, I mean, you play 30 games where you're in chase mode out of 50, you're just going to get worn down by the end. So, and plus, if that's the case, you're probably out of the playoffs if you're trying to chase scores. So, from that standpoint, this is a team that has to really prioritize the first goal. I know it's not going to happen. I mean, we could all wish we had the first goal every night, but if they could get it, I think that they looked like a better team, and certainly Carter Hart stepped up big time. When the team wasn't there for him early, he was the one that was able to kind of give this team life and move them into the direction towards the win. He kept them in at a lot of the game, and certainly it was a good third period by the Flyers. The one thing I don't like, though, Russ. Yeah, no, I mean, and I don't like their power play right now. Yeah, and that's something that's of concern because when they do have a man advantage, that's really, as we say, needing those goals, manufacturing goals early in games. Yeah, they absolutely have to get the power play in gear. Whether it's keeping things way simpler. Don't complicate it. Again, we talked the other night about the skill level. I think sometimes just a shot and a net crash is more suited for these guys, and I think that's the best solution for it.
And that's the thing, we talked about this. I think it was on the post-game show that we did after the Ottawa game. When you think about, sometimes it looks like, and we even talked about this in the last intermission, about sometimes the team looks like they're trying to find that perfect shot. They're looking for the perfect passing lane. And sometimes you overthink it. You don't play to your strength, which in a lot of cases is playing to your hockey sense. Let the game come to you. Take what's available. Don't overthink it. We talked about, is it a case where these guys are overthinking it because they want to impress the coach? Or is this a thing where the coach maybe is still trying to instill the tactics that he wants to see the better version of this team execute? Sometimes you just have to get dirty. Sometimes you just have to fight in the crease, and you need to pop the puck in the back.
I mean, listen, yeah, skill's important in this league, and we see a lot of it in certain teams, and I know we're everyone's envious to see a Connor McDavid or a Leon Draisaitl, a Bedard, a young guy, but Nathan McKinnon. That's not the case here now. So I always believe that if you're able to get pucks into that crease area, high slot for shots, and then traffic, that's where you score goals. Most goals are all scored down low anyway. They come off a shot. Most of the skill, creativity you see in the league is getting the puck to the net. Finding a way to be able to skill yourself or make a good play to it, and then you crash it. So Flyers have to be creative in ways, and really the power play is extremely important because this team, I think, is going to be challenged to score goals 5-on-5, and sometimes a power play can make that difference and give you a little bit of life when your 5-on-5 goal scoring is not at a premium.
Listen, we always say we don't want to become propaganda, right? We don't want to become the show that toes the line and passes on the company line, but we do want to be positive when there are moments that you can be positive.
Of course.
Titan Flyer over here says it seemed like the team could be buying into the new era of orange. It seems like they sort of bounced back from the Senators game. Wasn't perfect, but it was better than giving up. When you think about the way that I think it's pretty safe to say they got shellacked in a lot of facets of the game against Ottawa. You come out that first period, we've talked about, was not a good first period for this team. They probably deserve to be trailing after one. The fact that they were able to flip that script in the second and then again hang on in the third has to kind of speak to, I don't know, like a certain maturity that you might not expect of a team that has as many young guys in as many important positions as this team does.
Yeah, and I think, it's funny, Russ, I think when you look at that too, that's why you have to keep things as simple as you do.
Yeah.
There's opportunities for guys, skilled players, like a guy like Konechny, to have a big game. Owen Tippett, I thought he was a little better tonight, didn't score, but, he was better. There's still guys I think you need more from. I think they need more cohesiveness in the offensive zone. But they're going to work to that. Skill, it's not there like you're going to see on a team that's won the cup, like a Vegas. They don't have that defense core, the depth of the defense core that you can really count on in the game. So I'm just saying this is a team that's far better suited having a lead and trying to hang on to it rather than chasing a 2-goal lead. That's not going to work out, especially when you have to open things up.
Yeah.
This is not a team you want to have play river hockey, as we call it, or pond hockey, where you're going back and forth trading chances.
Yeah. It just got very quiet here.
It's very, very, very quiet.
All right, now we turn this into a bit of a little bit more of a golf telecast here.
I would agree. I would agree.
Do we do this in whispered tones for the rest?
I don't think we have to, but
this building cleared out.
It sure did. They all wanted to get home and watch the Phillies game, which we're going to try to do. But I am reading this here with the point about the team not being constructed to come back on teams. And again, it's not a shot at the team. It's just the way they're constructed.
Yeah.
They just don't have the horses that you can have a one-player trick pony take over a game. That's just not the case.
This point. Oh, that's a great name, by the way, Russell. That's a great name.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Surprised they actually shut them out. Flyers are famous for letting one in with about 2 to 3 minutes left and then making it tougher than they have to. The thing that, the Phillies just scored another run. How about that? Was that a homer? That was Schwarbaum. A little Schwarbaum out there. This team, historically, it's the end of the period. It's not necessarily the end of the game. It's 2-3 minutes left in a period where they have a mental lapse that leads to a goal that takes any kind of momentum that they might have built away. And good to see that it didn't happen today, and it certainly could have.
For example, in the Ottawa game, right?
Yeah.
With 6 seconds left, there's a turnover. It goes into the center of the ice. Ottawa scores. They make it 4-2. And that becomes a very tall task. Big difference going into a third. You're down 3-2 or down 2 goals. And then Ottawa, and what happens is a team then finds their comfort level. Mm-hmm. And then they're able to play a little bit like Philadelphia tonight. Again, I did not like the first period. There's not a lot to like about it except the score at the end of it. But, that was a dominant period for Vancouver. The goaltending was there. Flyers were able to get those 2 goals. And I think after that, they kind of settled into the game a little bit. And Vancouver, again, courtesy of Carter Hart, just couldn't do it.
Yeah. I have to say, it's weird how quiet this got. It makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But one thing that does make me comfortable is that you and I are up here talking hockey while, let's be honest. We can probably give people an idea of what the crowd was like tonight. It was, I wouldn't say sparse. Sparse would be too far. But this was a crowd that had a lot of not only orange and black, but had a lot of red, white, and blue Phillies gear. We did see probably an hour or so before the Phillies game began, we started seeing people trickling out. I have to give people credit, though. Even after we saw the Phillies fans start to kind of make their way out of here to go across the street, the volume in here, especially like when we saw Konechny go to defend Hart, there was that moment where I forget who the player was for Vancouver, continued with the puck and went 5-hole on Hart after the whistle blew. Konechny goes after him. There were 10-minute misconducts given out. But this crowd was very loud, very into this game.
Yeah, I mean, again, the fans were into it. It's opening night. There's a lot of excitement down here at the stadium. Those are the real true Flyer fans tonight that came out. I mean, they really wanted to see it. And again, I mean, you know, you're going up against the Phillies playoff NLCS. Yeah. I mean, that's a tall task with you know, how 50,000 over there, and then you got a game across the street with 60,000 soccer fans. So it's a crazy night down here. But you know, kudos to all the Flyers fans that showed up, watched it at home. It's a big night, and a good night to start it off.
I got in trouble here for a spoiler. I don't know how. I mean, so what you might not, well, you can't see it at home, is we're in the sports book. So there's just walls of TVs. So if you come out to a home game, make sure you come up. We had a bunch of fans show up here at the end of the game and in the third period to come say, hey, if you come to a home game, as of right now, I think we're planning on being back here in the sports book on Thursday. We shall see if it continues to work or not. But screens everywhere. We just, you know, happen to let people know. It's weird though, because the MLB network feed looks like it's ahead of the TBS feed. So I don't know if anyway, somebody said that we were like 5 seconds ahead, and that was a spoiler. So apologies out there if we hurt anybody's feelings with the spoiler.
Well, it's 5 seconds, so they're going to see it anyway.
That's true. Hey, I guess last thing, Brink looked like he kind of woke up after that first period.
He did. He had a good game.
Had a much stronger game. Is that again one of those things where you look at it and you say, young player playing at home really for the first time on an opening night?
He was,
and maybe he just kind of settled in.
He was all over it tonight. You know, had a chance at a couple of goals. I thought he did a really, really good job.
Yeah.
Getting to the net. He was determined. Won some puck battles in the corner. He had a good night. A lot of guys had good nights tonight. Some guys still trying to find their game a little bit, but all in all, it was a good team win. No game's going to be perfect, you know, and especially with the Flyers, the way they're constructed, they're going to have to really work. They're going to have some bounces go their way. But tonight they earned a lot, and they really did, and especially shutting things down. They had good goaltending was part of that, and Carter Hart provided that.
I think this is probably a good point to wrap up for the night. We got a lot of people who checked in throughout the game, throughout the intermissions, pregame, postgame. We appreciate that. Solar Warden says, "Thanks for doing it, gentlemen." Moderator too, intern Andrew.
Yeah, we'll be longer some nights. Just you know, I think it's just because of the Phillies playoff game tonight. Just a quick post game here to let everybody know we're on the scene. We'll be back here on Thursday with Edmonton. I'll be doing the pregame again, radio. Great to be down at the building. Seeing all the fans, a lot of happy faces here tonight. That's what we want to see. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't always been like that. Tonight was a really nice night to see some smiles and getting into gear with a big Flyers win for the season.
And of course, the most important thing is people can see on the screen is I'm taller than you, which is really great. And I'm sure everybody
people had no idea.
Russ. Had on their bingo block. Anyway. Thanks for checking out the show. Don't forget, we will be doing the regular podcast at some point this week. Snow the Goalie, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Pandora, anywhere you get your podcasts. We will be live on Thursday for pregame, intermissions, and postgame. Again, probably in the sports book all the way up. We'll put something out on social media about that to confirm. But we will be back on Thursday. We'll see if the Flyers can keep the momentum going.
It's a tough team. There'll be Edmonton coming in here looking for a big win after 2 losses
at
Vancouver.
You know, the good news is if you're looking to see really elite players, and you know, you hate to see it.
That's top of the food chain elite, by the way.
And it's like, you know, while you hate the fact that this team doesn't have that right now, when you get the opportunity to see a team that has that kind of skill, and then you start to think about, all right, you build the right way, you get the high draft picks, you hit on the draft. Maybe someday you can get the Dreisaitl's of the world or McDavid's of the world. We'll see. Hey, maybe Mishkov's going to be the guy. Who knows?
You never know, right?
Who's
you never know.
Anyway, thanks for checking out the show. We will be back on Thursday. In the meantime, make sure you go subscribe to the Snow the Goalie YouTube channel. Find us on social media. And for Bundy, for Ant, who's across the street at the game, I'm Russ. Thanks again for listening, maybe even watching the Press Row Show. Let's send people out with something fun here, Bundy. High tech time.